I'm BK Maginnis, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. This is the first episode in a walking series I'm going to do where I'm going to walk and explain to you more about my campaign. I've got my shoes on. Hopefully you do as well. Go ahead and hop on that treadmill if you want to walk with me. So let's go. So pretty much the biggest question I get, or the question I get most frequently, whether it's individuals or political organizations, other political people, news outlets, media, is why are you running? And that answer varies depending on who you're talking to. Well, what I'm going to talk about today is an answer that I don't really get to share very often. How you doing? So, I've been struggling. I'll be honest, I've been struggling a little bit here the last couple of years since Trump went office. You know, I sat there through the whole election cycle, listened to him really act not the way we were all brought up to believe politicians should act. And ultimately, you know, that's fine, whatever. Maybe it's a new type of politics. But the one thing that I just couldn't get past was this reporter with a physical disability was interviewed him, and at one of his news conferences, one of Trump's rallies, he mocked the guy. You know, he did a little hand gesture, as obviously he was mocking the guy, and the crowd laughed. And I thought it was bad enough that the crowd laughed, that he did it, but then the crowd laughed at the same time too. And I just couldn't, you know, my parents sent me to Catholic school, was raised Catholic, got a moral upbringing, not to say anybody else, not to say anybody else didn't. Everybody has their own upbringing, but, you know, I thought, however you were brought up, I thought we learned all as Americans that one of the things you don't do is you don't mock people with disabilities. It's not political. That's not, left, right, good, bad, left, right, Republican, Democrat. I thought that was just a known. I just couldn't believe that someone like him would do that. And what I mean by that is, he, at that point in time, he was one of the most powerful men in the world. Even before he won the presidency, just being the Republican nominee. And here it was, this reporter who'd struggled probably most of his life to gain respect, get in his profession, probably been mocked his whole life. Here was this guy who struggled his whole life, built himself up. And then here was Trump, who probably never had a struggle in his life, using all that power he had at that time to mock this guy. To me, it just was ridiculous. And so, the election came and Trump won. It just warped my reality, to put it the best way. Everything that I had been taught and brought up to believe about how you should be, how we were as Americans, really, was thrown out the window. I couldn't understand how that many Americans could support this guy, not only after he did it, but how he didn't even apologize afterwards. And so, over the next 4 years, I struggled. I couldn't believe it. It was, maybe it was one of those things where how people feel if their house has been robbed and they're just always wondering if there's someone around. I just couldn't believe who was around me that could believe that was okay. And so, election time came, And I was just, for all those 4 years, through all of the unethical acting and immoral and bad behavior and just compounding what he'd already done leading up to getting elected, I couldn't believe when Biden thankfully won that, even at that point in time, that Trump even got that many votes. Because, again, I thought the whole 4 years, I was like, it had to be a mistake. They got to realize now. Maybe they didn't see that. Maybe they didn't see him mocking that guy. All the stuff. How you doing? Maybe I didn't see that guy. I guess you can't say they weren't paying attention to everything, but they didn't see everything. But all those things that happened in those 4 years, and they still thought he was okay to be elected. I just couldn't understand that. But in one sense, I get it. If you've been brainwashed for the last 40 plus years that Democrats are evil, and maybe that might be a reason why you think that someone who mocks a person with disabilities is somehow the best candidate to vote for. I don't know. But, the reason being, though, is I've talked about this. If you've seen my intro video, I talked about the subject, and I'll talk about it more. But this should be good times for us as Democrats, and really as a nation, I think. We control both houses of Congress. Biden and Kamala Harris are effectively leading our executive branch. Our economy is prospering, coming out of a 2-year battle with COVID. But right now, and actually since the election, Republican legislatures have been passing legislation to take your voting rights away and control who's elected and who isn't. We've been working towards a one-party system. And for that reason, and again, I'll be talking about that in one of my next episodes, go into more detail how they're doing that. This Senate seat, why the Senate seat is so important, is because this might be the difference between our country no longer being a democracy. And I looked at the candidates that were running, and I just didn't have faith that they could win this race, this crucial race. In turn, I didn't think they really spoke for most Democrats as well, or at least Democrats like me. You see, and so I had to run because, I'll be honest, after Trump got elected, my wife and I looked at places in Europe to move. We talked about it. Talk about places to move. And but we said, well, let's stick around. And we sat there again for 4 years. And then once the next election started approaching, we talked about it even more. What if Trump wins? Are we going to move overseas? And we actually, put some decisions, business decisions, things like that on hold because we just didn't know. Fortunately, Biden won. But again, when we talk about these legislatures and what they're doing and possibly losing our democracy, there's still the chance that we feel that we might have to move, Europe or somewhere out of the country here in the near future. And what I thought is, I can't sit here, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, be looking at moving and go, I should have done more. Because I have those regrets. In 2010, I think I was like most Democrats. We were riding off the high of 2008, Obama getting elected, doing well, ACA, all those things, and didn't really participate that much. And we see the damage of not participating had on our democracy. That's when the Republicans basically took over state legislatures at that point in time. So 2016 comes around. Hillary is running for office, and I said, I'm not going to be like 2010. I got to do more. So, I volunteered. I did things to help her get elected. And when she didn't get elected, I sat there and said, maybe I could have done more. And I'm just not going to let that happen again. I'm not going to sit there and have that regret of, we're moving over to Europe. I should have done more. Because I love this country. I want to live here. I still have faith in it. And so, but the problem is we have the capacity to move, but most Americans don't. Most Americans will be stuck here in that autocracy, living whatever life. No freedoms, kissing, bowing down, who knows? So when I sit there and say that I'm not just running for North Carolinians, my fellow Tar Heels, I'm running for, when I say I'm not running for just my fellow North Carolinians and say I'm running for everybody, I truly believe that. I'm running for everybody, because this seat right here might be the difference between the whole country that we've had here for 233 years being lost. That's why I'm running. So that's all I have to say today. I'm going to keep walking. Hopefully you can keep walking too, get a little more exercise in. I'm BK Maginnis, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.